Hello and welcome to my rather battered homestead this beautiful morning. Still quite windy, but yesterday we had another storm. So really heavy rain, high winds, there's bits of stuff everywhere. I've been going around seeing what needs rescuing. And another thing I'll be doing this morning is raking up leaves, which can be a bit controversial at this time of year. Now, I don't use a leaf blower. I don't like them. I really don't think they're good for nature, blasting creatures that are under the leaves around. This is a gentle process. Things can wriggle away, and also they make loads of noise, and if you use petrol ones, they're polluting. But I do use a lawn rake like this, not because I'm entering the beautiful lawn competition, but because I live on a slope. It's November, we're going right into winter. I live in Wales, which is wet, and fallen leaves where I walk about are slippery, and I don't want to fall. I actually have osteoarthritis, so if I fall, it takes me a very long time to heal. So I'll be raking up the leaves and using them as a mulch in different parts of the garden, and also using them to make leaf mould. Fallen leaves are a great habitat. The ones mostly where I'm standing now are from the cherry trees here and the oaks, which are just over there. In the UK, our winters mean that mostly leaves don't decay by the spring, so I won't be using them on the as a mulch on the annual veg beds because they won't be broken down by the spring. Other parts of the world this does happen, and some leaves do, but generally speaking, not the trees I have here. But they are great as a mulch under perennials, where they slowly break down and they're feeding the soil, feeding the plants, and creating amazing habitats for wild creatures. So it's actually rather lovely raking the leaves and making all these little habitats for the creatures. I haven't made a YouTube video for a while. I'm going to post another video explaining all about why that is, but I do really like doing them. I like showing what's happening here. I have been very busy with my work. For those of you that don't know, I'm a garden and food writer, and I teach gardening and homesteading skills, and so I've been busy with my article writing that I do at the moment. In November, I'm on the cover of Kitchen Garden magazine with my medalers, and also I've been working on my next book, which is now off being printed and will be out in March, and I'll be more about that in another video. This is called The Productive Garden, and I am so looking forward to it being available to get in the shops. So what I thought I'd do today is a little tour of the garden, how it is this morning after yet another storm. We had a lovely summer. It was sunny and warm and dry, and you could wear shorts every day, and things like tomatoes and cucumbers and tomatillo and chilies and peppers and melons, just absolutely loved it. I got amazing harvests of these. Things like celeriac weren't so keen because it was dry, and celeriac likes a lot of water, but it was in other parts of the UK it was far too dry. They had major droughts, but here, because it's a damp place, the grass was green even though it was much drier than it should have been. And then it went from just like lovely sunshine to lots of rain. We had one really quite catastrophic heavy rainfall a few weeks ago. I was actually working up north, and it brought down rubble and silt and stone and big lumps of tarmac from the lane where I live, from the top of the hill down. There was flooding. I ended up with about 30 centimetres, a foot deep of stuff that was washed down the hill outside my property and outside my garage, and a lot of it's still there because it's quite a job shifting it. So we've had some really stormy weather and some rain, and it's been really mild. So some things that should have just stopped growing are a bit confused, and certain things I seem to be thinking it's spring. I mean, my rhubarb's thinking of shooting. So I'm hoping for some cold weather soon. And we've had, as I said, all this rain, which has meant things like keeping on top of weeding. With the warm weather, the weeds are growing, has been quite difficult. So I will show you how things are, the good and the not so good. So into the polytunnel, I'm very happy with how things are in here mostly. I've got plants which are tender that are now getting ready to come into the house for winter. I'll be doing that today. And things like these chilies, I'm cutting them back so they look like this. And this is a good way of overwintering chilies indoors. It puts them in a state of dormancy, so they're less susceptible to pests. They'll overwinter happily in a centrally heated house, and then in the spring they'll shoot again. So this polytunnel is planted out. Some things are smaller than they should be at this time of year, and that's because they were accidentally, the first lot of sowings were accidentally died when I was away, so I just re-sowed them, so they're just a bit late. But it's absolutely full of loveliness. These I planted up yesterday. It's hardneck, softneck and elephant garlic, and they're going to go on the propagating bench in this polytunnel for the next few months. Because of the awful weather, I haven't been able to prepare the bed they're supposed to go in. So that means they'll be growing until they're ready to be planted out. Obviously, I won't be leaving them in a big stack like that, because that would end up a horrible tangled mess. Now, one of the weird things about this time of year is the caterpillars. You know, I've never had caterpillar damage so late in the year that I can recall, and I've been picking them off, and you see down here these brassicas all being nibbled by caterpillars. So I'm going on a caterpillar hunt every day now to see where they are and relocate them. There's some little birds getting quite cross with me being in here, because they really like the beans at the bottom of the polytunnel, because they're full of little insects. So they come in and feast on them. Now, this is a drying bean gigantes that I grew in the polytunnel, because it's a damp climate here, as I've explained, and it means that they can dry out a lot better. So I will be harvesting the beans from there today also. And down here there's tomatillo still growing, and still lots of beautiful, delicious nasturtium. And going into the other polytunnel, again, this is pretty full of loveliness. There's tomatillo in here still, and this wonderful lemongrass. It's the best lemongrass I have ever grown since I moved to Wales. Still got flowers. And in both polytunnels, I've got sweet potatoes that need digging out too. This is a fairly new polytunnel. It went up in May, and this autumn I have given it a bit of a treat with some biochar that is from a local farm here in Wales, where they're using wood that is from fallen trees that have been toppled in a storm, rather than cutting trees down. And here between the two polytunnels are the apple trees and the orchard bed, which is having a massive change around this winter time. So one of my jobs this winter will be to cut the apple trees, to prune them, to get them a better shape. And then I'm going to be working on this under the tree space. At the moment, it's mostly overrun with strawberries, which is quite a nice problem to have. I will be sharing what's happening in here another time, but it's going to be a bit different to how it has been so far. So far since I moved here, it's been growing annual veg, apart from some perennials on the edge, like this perennial kale here. You'll notice lots of windfall apples. This is a really important food source for lots of creatures that live in my garden. It's really valuable for them, particularly at this time of year. This is the yacon, and it's not time yet to harvest the yacon, so that's staying in the ground. And I extended this bed a few weeks ago, and it's been covered with a green manure which I made from old packets of brassica seeds. So hopefully this will just be filled with brassica leaves, and I want a lot of those because my ducks eat a lot of lovely juicy green leaves. Similarly, over here is ochre, which again, it's not yet time to harvest that. Next to it are Jerusalem artichokes, which I've not harvested yet either. Here's one of the casualties from the storm yesterday. I've got the mangel wurzels here in a mangel wurzel cage, and this is because they are absolutely scrumptious for any wandering sheep. So I've protected them after finding some sheep here in the garden enjoying themselves on the leaves. I'll be harvesting the mangel wurzels over the weekend or on Monday. Now, this is weedier than I would like it to be, and the one that's particularly annoying me, or actually the two, are grass, because that's fiddly, you've got to trowel it out, and also willow herb, because that's fiddly and you've got to trowel it out. So I will be doing that, but one of the key jobs that's happening here is I'm changing the lie of the beds. So they were going lengthways with the garden, and now they're going to be going horizontally, and this is because I realised last year in the endless rain how, although this is actually quite flat for Wales, it is still sloped, and it will flow a lot better in very wet weather if the paths are running down, actually like I have them in the Polytunnel. Last winter we had some really heavy storms, really heavy rain, and unsurprisingly, the beds with the most roots in, so the ones that were planted up, or the ones that had green manure in, survived that experience much better than the ones that didn't. So I am going to be using even more green manures once I've sorted out those beds, got them the way I want them. And some of the green manures I'll be using include agricultural mustard and, difficult holding these, field beans. Now these are a relative of broad bean and you can eat them in the same way, and also forage peas. So they are good for this time of year. The agricultural mustard does get knocked back if it's really cold, so, but I've got a packet, so I'm going to see how it goes. I'm also going to be planting some peas. These are smooth peas, so when you look at the seed is smooth, and that's the kind of seed for peas you want at this time of year, because the ones with the grooves are more likely to rot because water can get stuck in there. This is Douce Provence, and I'm going to be sowing these in modules and then putting them in my polytunnels. The reason I'm sowing them in modules first, I'll be putting 3 seeds in each, is because there's a lot of rodents here, and although I've got owls and other predators living in this area, the owls can't get in my polytunnel at night, so I'm going to get them going in the modules so that when they're planted out, they're less of a temptation. And I also need to plant my broad beans. I do some at this time of year, and I do some again in February, March time. So these are going to be mostly planted into modules for the rodent reason. I will plant a few directly in the ground and hope for the best. Before I go and make a cup of tea, I'll share with you a couple of tips for what to do if your garden is feeling a bit battered and sodden or overwhelmed with weeds because it's just been so mild and everything just keeps growing, but it's too wet to go out and hoe. Whatever the problem may be, one is have a really short list of tasks so that that's achievable within a realistic time frame. So for this weekend, for me, I've got the sowing that I want to do. I've got the sorting out of the tender plants and bringing them into the house. And also I'm going to rake the leaves where I walk the most. So I know I can get all of those done. I do need to water the polytunnels as well, and I can fit that in too. But if you have too many things on your list, it feels overwhelming, and you can end up trying to do everything all at once or just doing little bits of things and then nothing gets done. I would like to get on with the weeding, and I will do that if I have time. If not, it'll get done another time. And the other one is to hope it snows, because if it snows, it covers everything and you can't see the weeds and you can't see the jobs that you need to do. It just all looks lovely. So, bit of a drastic thought, but it would actually be quite nice. Just cover it all with snow. I can't see the weeds then.